So today what we're going to do is learn how to make photographs with a terrible camera such as this one, which is a Canon G7X, and it's the sort of thing that you might have lying around or somebody in the office might have lying around. What we're going to do is we're going to learn how to use that to take professional looking photographs for your website. That way you don't have to hire a professional photographer, you can do it yourself and save money. It also allows you to take the photographs in your office if there's natural light, which means light coming in the window ideally, and that means that you don't have to worry about getting the same professional photographer when new hirees come to your company. So here is how to take photographs for your website of your employees using a terrible camera. The first thing that you should do is zoom in as much as possible. And I say as much as possible, what I actually mean is use the optical zoom of your camera. There might be a line when you zoom in. On this camera here, it's a white line, and that indicates that past that line is the digital zoom. Digital zoom essentially amplifies the picture digitally, and you therefore lose quality, something that you can do afterwards using your image editing program. Therefore, what you really want to be doing is zooming up to that line and then no further. By zooming in, you're using the telephoto capacity of your camera, capability of your camera, and that means that the people look better. If you can't zoom in all the way, or if you're getting camera shake from this, then zoom a bit less. The next step on the camera, auto mode is generally fine. You don't really want to use the flash, it doesn't look very professional. So you want to have an area with natural light, ideally coming through a translucent white curtain, or bouncing off a white wall onto your subject. Just by looking, you can see whether somebody is lit or whether they're in the dark. In this situation, I have a curtain to my left, filtering through the sun. Again, a nice, even light. At the moment, this side is a bit too harsh, a bit too contrasty, and that's deliberate to make the video a bit more interesting. But you can also use a soft light to make a nice portrait. A soft light doesn't have the shadows that you see, for example, when I put my hand here. If you have a soft light, you won't see those shadows. So zoom in and then use auto mode and take the photograph, avoiding the flash. It might be that your light levels are low, in which case your camera will blur the picture. Make sure that when you take the picture, you're locking your arms in, you're bracing the camera, and if you can, hold it against your head, and that's going to make the camera move less when you take the picture and allow you to take photographs with lower light. You can also increase the ISO, which stands for the International Standards Organization. What it actually is the sensitivity of the camera. You can increase this to 800 or even 1600 ISO, and that you can do with your menu by consulting your camera manual, or ideally looking on Google, how can I increase the ISO sensitivity for the camera model that you have and you're using for these photographs. So increase the ISO to 1600. It means you're not going to photograph large prints that you can, for example, print out. For website use, that would be completely fine. So auto mode, or if your camera needs you to use P mode, which is for program, then you can do that as well if you have to increase the ISO sensitivity. So when you have those settings, it's very simple to take photographs. Zoom in, soft light with no shadows, a very neutral background. That's another thing, is that at the moment this background behind me is going to be changing between the photographs. All you need is a plain coloured wall, ideally white, but grey or a darker colour will also work. I would recommend white, but either way it should work quite nicely. You want no texture or a very plain repeating texture to make these photographs. You don't want some sort of design in the background because it's dated, and it's also going to lock you into one location. So having a nice white simple background or a neutral grey is going to be ideal. So here is how to take a photograph using a very terrible camera in an environment that's cluttered and just using natural light. Camera on, auto, Zoom in up to the line. Show your subject the photograph and say, "That's nice."
Nice.
When you're photographing, you want your person to stand probably about 1 meter away from the wall. What this does is it will blur the wall slightly and create less texture in the wall. You can have them closer as well, it's not super important. When you frame them, generally you want to frame them from the nipples up to the top of their head. Don't have too much space above the head, because what you do when you do that is make them look less powerful. So you want to have a nice thing, as you may see in a passport. In terms of clothes, ideally you want the clothes that they're wearing to be professional. You want gentlemen to be wearing suits and ties, and you want the women to be wearing a nice dress. Ideally a darker dress, because it will make the faces look better in the pictures. But generally something classic, something professional, and something that's not going to be dated with time. In terms of posing your subjects, you want them to stand there in front of the camera and you want to joke with them a bit. So allow them to put their favourite song on if you're in an office that will allow this. Otherwise, just joke with them, ask them about their day, ask them what's going on in their lives, and let them relax a bit, because that will show in the photographs. What I tend to do when I'm photographing people, executive portraits and so on, is I tell them to look very, very serious, like this. And after a while, they'll laugh at the idea that the seriousness that they are projecting is something of a caricature. And after they finish laughing, they're nice and relaxed, and that's when I get the nice, classic, calm, after-laugh portraits that look professional, friendly, and fun. So that is how to make professional-looking portraits using a terrible camera in your office, at home, simple background, and you can use them on your website, and you can always update them as you have new people join your company. It's very simple to do, it's very cheap to do, it's free, you have a simple camera that you can bring in. If you want to get something more professional, then you can look into hiring a professional photographer like myself at englishphotographer.com, or somebody else in your local area. What you're looking for is somebody who's specialised and somebody who really knows what they're doing. Anybody can have a camera when you have the expertise on how to use it, and the expertise also about how to make people project themselves well, to pose them properly so that their best face is forward and projects themselves well on your website, and therefore sells your company with their professional image. That's important, and that's something that you'll need to pay more for with a professional photographer. But for the majority of photographs for your website, it's easy enough to take pictures at home, in your office, using a simple camera and using natural lighting. Then use Snapseed or Affinity Photo or even GIMP. Those 3 apps, also Picasa for Google, all those things will help you brighten up the picture and make it look more professional. I recommend having them in black and white for simplicity. Thanks so much.